Welcome to the Nerd Party.
I'm Darren Moser.
I'm Phillip Gilfus.
I'm Daniel Prue.
And this is City Alpha 3.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to SETI Alpha 3, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Daniel Prue, stranded here with my two buds. Phillip, you were going to be the captain, but we decided to change your role halfway through. So, yeah, you're now going to be engineer number 6.
Oh, man. At least engineer number 3, but 6, man. I won't get any screen time.
And you're a Boolean. So. And Darren. Good news. Good news. You aren't going to be on the show.
I was hoping I would be shifted to a Klingon. I was really hoping.
No, you have more important things to do, apparently. I don't know, something in California.
Fine, I'll just be executive producer number 23.
He's trying to do too much. Good. Look, Darren, it's either your family or this podcast.
Or another podcast, or whatever the case may be, yeah. So, guys, I kind of struggled with how I wanted to do this, whether or not I wanted to do this. The thing is, at least I try to stay Discovery light on the show, only because it'll date us, if anybody listens a year from now or 2 years from now or 3 years from now, all the stuff we talk about essentially will be silly and
3 years from now when they debut?
I
was going to say, we mentioned
jokes.
it at the end of the last couple of episodes. Like, at least the last 5 episodes. But
yeah, but I try not to be too specific in the news that we talk about. So I didn't know if I really wanted to do this, but so I'm just going to set the stage here. In case
Canada.
anybody is listening
the sound stage
in the future. Let's just say that there have been, the entire production of Discovery has been, to be the most diplomatic as possible,
crystalline entity.
kind of problematic, we'll say that. There have been issues with the production of Star Trek Discovery. And whether you fall on the camp of, oh my god, the show's never coming out, or let's wait and see, or I'm never giving them my money, doesn't matter. That's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about if we were going to do Discovery. Because that's fun. Especially before we... So we only know a very little about Discovery, and what we do know seems to change like every other week. So I don't think we know anything about Discovery, other than the fact that there's a Discovery.
We know negative things about Discovery at this point.
Well, actually, we really don't know that there's a Discovery in it because it's the U.S.S., not Discovery so far.
And also, we don't even know what year it's coming out. So whatever. So whatever.
The 2200s, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard. So
I think they're aiming for First Contact Day at this point. Yeah. Let's celebrate it. So, anyways, again, we're not going to get into the details about that.
And we don't mean to mock the production or the people making it. We are just having fun.
A little bit. I mean, we do a little bit, but
12% mocking. No. Probably not that.
Yeah. No. We do. We are Star Trek fans here first and foremost. We want Discovery to be the best show it's going to be. I'm sure we're going to have some awesome, fun time podcast event when the show comes out. We're gonna be right there watching.
If we're still alive.
If we're around. We want it to succeed. We want it to be better than all the other Star Trek combined.
Well, that's a little
we're also... I mean, I would like it to happen. If I had the choice and I could make Discovery the best show of all time, I would do that. I don't have that choice, obviously. And it's clear that neither do the showrunners. But anyways... we tease mostly. It is a little frustrating sometimes. But again, we're not getting into details about that. What I want to do is have a little bit of a fun... experiment here and talk about somebody comes to us, whoever it is, someone at CBS or
Bob Executive.
See, I was thinking this old witch knocks on our door and then offers us an apple and the right to Discovery.
I think it was Bob Orsi, right, that gave the reins to it doesn't matter because in this hypothetical, President CBS, we'll call him, comes to us and says, guys, we need a Star Trek show. It's been too long. We're going to launch it during the 50th anniversary, and we want you guys to write it.
So this is a flashback episode. Okay.
This is a flashback episode. This is an old.
We happened to bump into him in Vegas.
Yeah.
Exactly. which again, still a little too late. But and he hands us a sheet of paper that says Star Trek Discovery. That is it. That's all we're going on. Star Trek Discovery. We don't even have to name the ship Discovery if we don't want to, guys. But I guess it would make sense if we're going to call it Discovery. Like Voyager and Enterprise and Deep Space Nine and all that.
Right,
stuff.
and the Next Generation ship.
Yeah.
Well, except for
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Or Next Gen with an X because it was extreme.
So what do you guys think? He gives us this blank check. Oh, remember that movie?
Oh, yes.
Blank check?
With the Mac that printed checks out of the disk drive in the front.
Oh, yeah.
I remember looking at that. I'm like, that does not how computers work. But okay, we'll let you have it.
So he gives us a blank check, the name Star Trek Discovery, and tells us to go nuts.
That's pretty. Now, Daniel, are we each coming up with our own pitches?
Oh no.
Are we combining
This is the great writing team of
Okay.
Phil, Daniel, Moser.
See what it is? When you're stuck on a planet for so long, you got to learn to collaborate with the people there.
Or die.
That's what we're gonna or die.
Okay, I think first things first. Time period.
Wait. Before even time period, should we determine universe?
I think that was a given.
Well, yeah.
Okay. I do think we all.
we all gave it point one. What was Data's time? 0.17 seconds.
I can consider it for 0.37 seconds, sir.
And then
to an android, it was an eternity.
So prime time.
Because the CBS executive doesn't have control of the JJ verse, so that's a little footnote on that one sheet of paper. Star Trek Discovery, not JJ verse.
And then
with a blank
I made a
check,
joke about it
because
it's going to be on prime time, and then no one laughed, and we moved on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we determined prime timeline.
Yes.
Okay.
When would this show take place?
My instinct, my everything about me always says move forward. I don't want to speak for y'all, but I love the 24th century, and maybe I guess this would be the 25th if you really were going to go that forward. I mean, eventually it's going to switch over the calendar, but I'm like, there are so many. I'm not, Discovery that we know is a prequel, and then Enterprise is a prequel, which is not my favorite. But it is tantalizing. So I will throw out the idea of between, not like a second before Star Trek, but like between Enterprise and Star Trek TOS, I'll throw out, this is my idea, the first Federation ship. That was my thought. But what were you all thinking?
So basically after the end of Enterprise where he signed the charter.
Well, because technically
the Federation.
That wasn't the Federation charter. I think that was like the charter to pre-charter.
Charter.
Yeah, it's like getting on first base of the Federation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that analogy applies, but
so it wouldn't have to be necessarily 10 because that's 10 years after Enterprise or Broken Bow, I suppose, if you want to be technical. But this could maybe 20 years. But I guess the idea is that like Enterprise was not the first Starfleet vessel, but the first whatever you want to call it vessel. But this is the first Federation starship Discovery. I mean, again, we don't have to call it Discovery, but that was sort of where I was thinking, whether that's post-Romulan War, whatever. But that was my general thought. Now, leave it to you all to agree or disagree.
Post-Enterprise, pre-TOS.
Yes, that was my thought.
Almost.
What about you, Dan? Or do you want me to go next?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So I just looked up what year Nemesis takes place, and it's 2379. So only 20 years from the 25th century.
Right.
So I think I want to go farther into the future. I think jumping forward is always good. I understand the prudence who say, it's just going to get all loopy and science-y. Like if you go too far forward, that it's like everything's magic and like nothing's grounded. But I really don't like being canon locked and stuck in the middle of two other series, and this is unless you do kind of like Stargate Atlantis where you go to a whole other part of the galaxy. I mean, that could make it work, but I would rather vote for let's go 25th century. So let's go 2410 or something like that.
No, I would throw, and again, I'm not negating. I'm just saying, you say canon locked. You're canon locked now with every series.
Well, no, but not technically.
But what I'm saying is, no, I know what you're saying, but I'm saying by doing a prequel, you are limited by what you cannot do because the future has been set. Whereas by being in the future, yes, you have to rely on what's come before, but you can use that as a building point. You can tell whatever story you want in the future. It's like the difference between telling Rogue One story versus, BS
Star
Wars.
again.
Sorry, it's only of the franchise that are firing all cylinders. Let's just say Star Wars is doing a little better right now. I'm just saying.
Did you?
I've never even seen it.
Just out of curiosity, Darren, did you feel the same way about Rogue One?
Did I like Rogue One?
No. Not did you like the movie, but did you feel the same way about it? Kind of as a concept, like I get it, but it also feels like we're stuck here. I think
Rogue One worked because one, it was think of it as a single episode. It's a single story that takes place, and it has a specific reason. Now, if they were like, we're going to tell 5 stories about it's harder. Okay, it's the difference between Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels. Because Star Wars Rebels also takes place kind of in the same time period just before A New Hope, but it's now trying to generate characters and events and things like that, and it's got to toe that line where... we know season 4, the next season is the last season, they've said, because they're pretty much almost to A New Hope in timeline. So they're running out of space. So I feel they've made it work, and I think Rogue One does make it work because it is just, we're going to tell the story of the Death Star plans, and that works. But it's very different versus like Enterprise, where it's like we need to do a possible 7-year continuous type of story in this vast universe. So, but good question though.
And again, it's not my franchise, and I haven't seen nor will I see any of these things. But isn't that the same thing with Clone Wars, and then with every movie that's not an episode that's planned, like young Han Solo and young, like
yes. And I see what you're saying, but I feel it's different in the fact that, like, these standalone movies, like let's say the Han Solo movie is like a young Han Solo, and it takes place again between 3 and 4, which a lot of them will probably land. But again, being a single story and a single movie, I feel it has that quote unquote problem, but not to the same degree as we want to set our entire series, and we want to tell news stories. I get how on the paper it does seem like it's the same issue, but I think because of the format, it's not nearly as big of a problem.
So I would agree and slightly disagree with you in the fact that, like, I do think setting it between Enterprise and Star Trek, just as they are doing, is very tricky and dangerous, and why even trap yourselves in that box.
It's even more trapped than Enterprise was.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I don't think Enterprise was... it was a little trapped, but it was set far enough behind the series that it was not going to be a huge issue. And they fumbled a little bit. Sometimes they succeeded. They didn't knock it out of the park, I'll say, as far as continuity goes. But as far as Star Wars goes, I think that I'm way more interested in what the heck happened between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens than I am Rogue One,
right?
Or any of these like bits and pieces right in between them. The larger the gap, the more interesting stories you can tell.
Yes.
If there's something huge, this great big adventure going on at the exact same time, I think it's a very big struggle to say, like, well, okay, how come nobody ever referenced this?
Well, look at
why has this never been a thing?
Think of it as there was that overlap between Deep Space Nine and Next Gen. To bring it back to Star Trek, the focus of our podcast, they had a little bit of an overlap, and while they didn't play with it a ton, they did some. I'd say that's the same as like Rogue One. Rogue One is like, yes, it takes place before, but it's more like this story is almost concurrent to the events of A New Hope. This is another chapter, another focus.
Yes, I think yes, you're right, but I do think that you run into an issue when you do it 20 years after the fact.
Right.
I think that's the
Yes.
problem. Then it just feels like you're creating gaps to fill at that point.
Well, but I see what you're saying. Like when you're talking about the new trilogy, the Star Wars, 7, 8, 9. Yes, you have to set that 20, 30 years in the future, because you can't say, oh, we're going to make another trilogy and we're going to put it between the other two trilogies, between episodes 3 and 4. Like there's not enough time.
No,
I think that wouldn't work.
Well, I'm not saying I want a whole trilogy, but I'm saying, like, I remember the first time watching Force Awakens and being lost and having no idea who the heck these people are, what they're doing.
There wasn't enough connective thread.
There wasn't in a lot of ways. I mean, there were in a lot of other ways, but as far as the plot goes, I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess we're doing this again, but I don't know what has happened to create this universe or what has happened to the universe.
Okay,
But overall, I vote for the 25th century.
All right, I vote for prequelish setting. So Daniel, you are the Anthony Kennedy of this argument.
So, what year did you say? You said 2510 or something.
Well,
like
it'd
that?
be 2410 because that's how.
Or 2410? Yeah,
but basically the 20. So it's like 30 years post Nemesis, basically. We
So
give or take a decade.
I'm okay with that. I think, and I don't know how the timeline matches up. I don't know when the JJ events take place,
You
but
mean
I
like
think
the destruction
that
of Romulus and the.
That would.
I think
oh,
that's
that,
exactly.
Sorry, when you say JJ, I thought you meant about. Okay, I'm with you.
I think that the destruction of Romulus is the catalyst for the show, because we get to stay in the Prime timeline. We get to, you can set it 10 years in the future if you want, or 20, 30. It doesn't even really matter. That's a huge event that would obviously be a huge deal for decades and
Well,
decades.
you're
to
sort of
come.
you're sort of
Hundreds years
following
to-
the Star Trek Online timeline.
or most of the books. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them have dealt with it, but I generally don't follow secondary sources, so that stuff.
Yeah, for this point,
Again,
we're just ignoring any expanded universe, aka.
Oh man,
we're writing our own.
Yeah, exactly.
it's just like
I think the fallout of that
it's
is
just like we're writing Force Awakens then.
Okay, I just looked it up. So, 2387 is when Romulus is destroyed, which is basically, I think it's like 8 years after Nemesis.
okay. So we should set it like 2399 so we can party like it's 2399.
No. See, the actual millennia and century starts on.
Oh, not this again.
So this, but okay, this actually does a lot of things. It's set. Your universe is mostly set already. It gives you, it changes the rules enough that it makes it interesting that you're going to want to watch and see what's going on, and it gives us the opportunity for future cameos from past characters, which I think is in a very organic way, in the same way that Star Trek has always continued since 1987. Right. We have this one continuous story that's been going on, and
any of the next gen, any of our second wave or like next gen Voyager or DS9 characters, we could bring back plausibly within their lifespan.
Super easily. Yep.
Okay,
so
well, I was just going to say one. I mean, we're on board there. So
You're
that's
voted down, Phillip. We're not doing prequel. I'm sorry.
It's fine. So it's.
Don't worry, you'll actually
The
get
next
your
one
prequel,
is going
so.
to be whether it's going to be animated or not. I know, so we'll discuss that. But so here's my thing. So the most of the Star Trek series post Next Gen have had a thesis or a purpose. I mean, Next Gen was just like we're the Enterprise, we're going out to things. But Deep Space Nine is we're around a planet. There's a wormhole. There's a planet. Bajor, we have a reason to put them into the Federation, and then there's the big wormhole that's going to have whatever. And then Voyager, obviously, we're stuck in the Delta Quadrant. We're going home. Enterprise, a little bit looser, but sort of like we're going to build the Federation.
First Warp
Not
5
that they knew that.
ship.
Right,
yeah.
right. So, I feel like Discovery can't just be like, oh, we're a starship looking around at stuff.
Right.
I feel like there needs to be a to-do.
Which I think Daniel was saying that antithesis is the destruction of Romulus and the shakeup in the geopolitical landscape of the Federation and the Milky Way galaxy. But I might be wrong.
No. Yeah, if you want to go the war route, you certainly could. Obviously, that would be a massive change of powers. But even if you don't, there's a lot of, I guess you'd call them spatial politics that can be mined from that. A lot
Literally
of good stuff.
mined.
And we've seen some of it. We've seen some of it before, certainly. But I think it would change up. So I think by this time, right, we're going to have essentially a good chunk of the Milky Way explored.
Yeah, we're
know,
going
especially with everything
faster.
that
We're
Voyager
going
did.
farther. You know,
The
getting-
Alpha Centauri, is this what it's finally going to turn into?
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's too much, I think.
Because that's sort of, and again, I'm on board. I'm with y'all, but I think that the baggage as we go forward of being in the 25th century is that, well, now we know everything. So what's new? What's out there that we don't know?
Sure.
So what's the driving force, and what is the mission of the Discovery? That's the key. That's what unlocks it all.
Yeah, I don't want it to be a time ship. I don't think we were going that
No.
direction, but I'm just saying that as a no, just a hard no. But that's me.
But I'm sure it'll run into its fair share of temporal anomalies. I'm just saying it happens.
As we all do.
I'm just trying to think. I don't want to tie it too closely to the JJ verse, but what popped into my head was, like this red matter that we all of a sudden have. Like maybe they can create
Now,
stable
This is-
wormholes.
this is kind of a little hokey, so you may dismiss this out of hand. What if they're looking for a new Romulus?
I could do that. Yeah, that would be cool.
So like maybe there's a good not like half the cast or anything, but like there's a decent amount of Romulans on board the
Romulans
Discovery.
become the new Klingons, basically. Like we
well-
would always see a lot of Klingons.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
overall.
Yeah. Like there'd
Yeah.
be like a Romulan con officer or something.
Like the second highest population after human is probably Romulan.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you could totally have like the situation where the Romulans obviously go to the Federation after this happens because the Federation are the ones that are gonna
Yeah,
they're gonna
the next biggest power.
and they're the ones that'll actually help them out,
True.
you know. And then the Klingons could be like taking this advantage and declare war on, or whatever
Eating
you want to
away
do.
their empire.
You know,
Right. And
tensions are high and
I know this sounds like I'm stealing this from Star Trek Online, but I'm not. But like, then there could be sort of like a sect or group of bad Romulans, and so as we're helping our friendly
Romulus
Romulans,
first.
or whatever. But because I know a guest star that Daniel wants to see from, who's a Romulan. I'm kidding.
No,
Who is
absolutely
in Star
not.
Trek
he's
Online?
dead.
The number one rule on this
It's on
show
page
is
1 of
no
the Bible.
Okay.
no blonde Romulans.
So what about this? So it's It's a little bit after the destruction of Romulus. You know, things have kind of gotten together. We're just entering the beginning of the 25th century, and we're on board a new starship,
State of the art.
The U.S.S. Discovery, that was a joint build. It is a Federation ship, but it
Ooh.
incorporates
Romulan design.
technology.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm on board.
So we still have a saucer, but it's a little bit, a little different. And
It has like the
a third of
warbird
the
head,
crew, something like that. But I mean, we don't have
I'm
to go into
kidding.
the design of it. But it's
Oh, we do.
But it's got a third of the crew.
But it's
And it has a
green.
cloak, of course.
Okay, it's got a cloak. A third of the crew is Romulan, and their primary mission is to find a new home for the Romulan people, but also explore. Basically, we're exploring the space behind the Romulan Empire. That's like going farther out into the arms of the galaxy.
Is that the Beta Quadrant? Am I making that up?
That's the beta quadrant. They have a good
like,
chunk.
Yeah,
of the
they're
beta
pretty much
quadrant,
the Beta Quadrant. So yeah, so like deep into actually no, sorry, that's the Alpha Quadrant.
Are they still?
Alpha's on Alpha, Beta.
okay.
Beta's like DS9 and Cardassian.
And Klingons?
Alpha's Klingon. And look, I just picked up Larry Nemechek's.
I was about to say, I was about to open the book up over
Yeah,
here.
trust me, I've looked at my fair share of the Milky Way galaxy, which I never understood why they put the dividing line on Earth, but that's near here. nor there.
Racism.
Yeah. So I mean, we can debate like where exactly they go, but the point being, it is unexplored past Romulan space. We've never been able to touch that space because
what
we
if-
have to go through the Romulan Union.
And also,
that
like,
makes
what is
sense.
beyond the Alpha Quadrant? You know what I'm saying? At some point,
Right.
like, I guess you could leave the Milky Way galaxy would be the argument. But, like,
Right,
no.
but you
there
don't
could
wanna
be
do that.
Have you seen Star Trek, Phillip? You're not allowed to leave the galaxy.
But yeah.
It's
I mean, by going that way, we're moving away from the core. We're moving out into
The Epsilon Quadrant. I was trying to do my Greek alphabet real quick.
Well, again, it's yeah. There you go. It's basically like the rim. We're entering to the rim of the galaxy, and the stars are farther apart out here.
The galactic barrier? Oh, we've only done that twice.
Gosh, not the galactic barrier. But yeah, basically, it's by putting it past the Romulan, what was the Romulan
Empire.
What did they call it?
Because I mean,
Empire.
Yeah, well, because it got kablooied.
Right. I mean, so like, let's say a good quarter or maybe a third of their territory has now been absorbed by the Klingons. We haven't moved in. We've kind of moved in a little bit, but it's more to like keep the Klingons from like totally swamping over them.
Well, I could see like it's not to be very political, but I could almost see like a Berlin, Germany situation after World War II, where the Soviets took like half, and the other half was sort of the Allies.
And again, just because they lost their homeworld doesn't mean like the entire, empire collapses, but it is like a devastating blow.
It's the Romulan diaspora.
It could be.
Yeah, like they, in true Romulan fashion, they want to retreat more into their own isolationism. So they're like, but we need help. So we want you, we're going to go even farther away from the Federation and all these other races, and we want to find our own, our new homeworld in the Outer Rim.
And I can see that the Romulan characters would be intriguing because at certain steps you never know whether they're working for themselves. Are they keeping things from their Starfleet brethren? What are their goals? Are there? Yes, a new home, but do they have other goals that we don't know about?
Right.
And so I think that.
But again, I think we can obviously enhance their characters and make them more than just mustache twirling villains. Like they can be we can explore their complex social order. We can explore basically. Not only has their society been uprooted, but this whole kind of like super secret, we have to be very militaristic, like that's gone. Like, and or maybe we could also say that besides the destruction of Romulus, basically the Obsidian, or no, sorry, was it Tal Shiar?
Tal Shiar.
Tal Shiar is like crippled. Mm-hmm. Like they're mostly gone. So.
Or are they?
I think in the pilot, like like not like the last scene, but like maybe like the third to last scene, one of our Romulan characters, like either like alone or something, like
is
reveals
like a remnant of the Tal
reveals
Shiar.
that they're former Tal Shiar, and you're like, oh, I got to keep my eye on that one.
No way, even better. You play the long game with it. Like you decide before you go in that at the end of season 1 or 2 or something, one of the main characters of the show is going to be revealed to be Tal Shiar.
But you don't know.
But
they're
the audience doesn't know.
Yeah.
Exactly, the Cylon.
So anyway, what do you guys think of that? Just is that course that we kind of set? Do you want to make tweaks, or does that sound like a good direction?
I think it sounds good. Like I said, I like these sort of like because maybe Romulan. I don't know. I don't want to make up like the Expanse or something, but maybe there's something that Romulans know about the space that they're going to need a starship that's a certain way.
Right. I see. I'm thinking more. I mean, they haven't even explored it. It's basically their backyard, and they're just like, but they're so focused on our side of the border because that's where all the threat was. And
then Daniel, you'll be happy to know it is powered by Romulan power source.
Yes, the artificial singularity. Yes. That would be cool. I was also thinking too. Maybe there's a sect or even a very large chunk of the Romulans that are now vying for reunification. And that could be like really interesting. Yeah, that there would be some of their people that are like, yeah, we need help, and some of them people that would be really like, super nationalists, like we just need to retreat and Romulans or Romulus B for Romulans or whatever, So,
do we want to put a time limit on it? Meaning
13 episodes a season.
No, not that. But meaning
58 minutes an episode.
Look, I have to say, by the way, I know this is apropos of nothing, but I've been watching Doctor Who in class on BBC America, and one thing I've really noticed, there were like 2 to 3 commercials in that show in commercial breaks. I'm like, because I'm hitting my little fast button. Right. I'm like, oh, wait, were there already? Like, are these... Is American shows like 2/3 the length of a British show? But anyway, that was just...
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about the fact that an average episode of Star Trek is 42 minutes, yet it fits in an hour slot, like a quarter of that is basically ads.
Mm-hmm. But just like American television is like 5 to 6 commercials.
Yeah. But
that's bad.
Anyway, but what I meant by time limit is, do we want to manufacture a scenario where they have a certain number of years to find a home planet, or X, either the Klingons invade or some sort of temporary treaty gets nullified or something. I'm not saying we have to.
I don't know.
One thing too many.
I think there are ways to ratchet that tension up a lot without putting some constraint like that on there. like you could just make it the situation starts out obviously tense and just gets more and more tense, and you know that it's a ticking time bomb. You don't know when it's going to go off, but you know that like whatever situation that we're in right now is unsustainable. We really have to get this goal, and it's super important. In the same way that like Battlestar didn't have a time limit.
No, they just before they ran out of supplies.
Right. And people, right? That was their big thing, was the countdown of how many people died. So you could
the time limit with Battlestar was that it was, not chaos. What's the word I'm looking for? But like it's the only thing that hope. Like in other words, like without Earth, they were going to be like, well, let's just all kill ourselves or something. Like what's the point of living? Right. And so that was like Earth. Okay, then. And so,
was it our last best hope for peace?
Yeah.
I will say I would not want to go as dark as
no, not at all.
I love Battlestar,
right?
But this is Star Trek.
Well, I think you could. I mean, there's so many elements you can play there, and of course, we're not even talking about Starfleet. I mean, we can, but I'm saying, like, well, in other words, like, why Starfleet? So, why would Starfleet want to find a new home for Romulans? I mean, like, okay, we'll find a couple colonies. Like, why do we want to not, remake the Empire? But like, what's our goal?
What if
they will
this
finally
way,
give us cloaking technology?
What if they're basically saying, if you find us a new space, because we want to just retreat from everybody, we'll give you the remainder of the Romulan Empire territory. So basically the Federation like doubles in size.
But the Federation has never been about so I don't know, I don't really like that idea.
There has to be some bargaining.
I feel like
they would just be helping them because it's the right thing to do.
You're right.
Like
that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's a humanitarian thing, and human. Even just listen to yourselves. Even the word is racist. But I really do. I think it's just like this tragedy happens to the Romulans. They come to us because who else are they going to go to? They're not going to go to.
Well, we were already having. I mean, after the Titan mission and Captain Riker's. Oh my gosh, he's considered like on Romulus, like almost like a god. The way that he went to Romulus and just made everyone love the Federation.
But I like the thought of this being far enough from the destruction of Romulus that we've actually started to work together with the Romulans for like 1 or 2 decades. But it's still like. We were also enemies for like 100 years, so it's like it's not like we're that worried about them stabbing us in the back, but it's still new,
right? And I'm throwing this out. It can be a hard no, but I'm just gonna acknowledge: do we want a Reman character, or do we want any Reman reference, or do they just like show up once a season?
Yeah. Oh, I would say that they would play not a big role, because I imagine
Reman Makos.
I would imagine that at least a part of the agreement with the Federation would be, hey guys, no slaves. So, plus what would they, I'm sure there are other places they are mining, but I can't imagine it's to the degree that it was on Remus. So I don't know if I'd want a major character. If we did have a major character, you'd have to change like the makeup.
Whoa. Daniel, hold on. What are you trying to imply? That if we do a new Star Trek series, you're going to take an established character and change the makeup? Hold the phone. I'm out.
Do you really think the Remans are really that established? No, I think it'll be okay if we change them a little bit.
It'd be cool if there were a couple Reman officers and, in our main cast we have, a representative head. This is also kind of borrowing a little from Babylon 5, but you have like your head of your Remans, your head of your Romulans, and your head of the Federation, probably the captain or a secondary character, and they are constantly meeting as they're making these decisions. What's the best for this ship? Like it's kind of a ship by council.
Or what about if we have a Reman on board and it's like the Nog character?
Okay, do
you know what I'm saying? Who starts out like kind of maybe he'll be the first person that like serves on a ship or something, or he or she, and it's like
I'm already making it a she. Go.
Okay, so she's like young, but like eager to like get out into the world and prove herself. She's the first
opportunities now because the Empire. She's benefiting the most from the destruction of Romulus.
Right, why exactly. Is it so bad, guys? Things are awesome now.
And then if a good chunk of the crew is Romulan, then you're going to have those deep-seated prejudices that you'll have to deal with. And obviously there would certainly be a lot for Star Trek to say about those sorts of things now. And I think he would
is 20 years on the right side.
Well, like in some ways, and again, I'm thinking maybe like not. This isn't a hard and fast quota number, but not like half. But I'm thinking like a quarter of the crew would be Romulan and Reman, just to whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking like a third.
Yeah.
But a good portion enough where you see them.
But not overwhelming. Like I don't feel like
No.
we won't be scared they're going to take over the ship or something.
It's still there's just not that many Romulans to dedicate to this mission.
That's
like
true.
the rest are just keeping the Empire alive.
Right, and maybe, well, okay, I don't want to. I feel like I'm just ratcheting it up, but like maybe this is like the third ship that's tried to do this. Like the other two have disappeared or something like that, and so it adds to a little like maybe we shouldn't do this, and
Or maybe the Romulans tried twice before, and now they're asking for Federation help.
yeah, cause, like, and again, I don't want to create like the Expanse all over again, but like maybe Romulans have always tried to explore this part, but they couldn't because stuff has happened, and so they just stuck it. But now that they, no one else is going to give them a planet, because everyone lives here already, and so they're like, well, let's go this direction.
Well, and so what is the besides finding a new?
That's a good idea. I like
yeah,
that.
no, I like that too. But besides, what I'm wondering is what is the day-to-day episode about? Like in Voyager, you had the overall let's get home, and so there were often episodes about getting home. D6-9, it was about the war or about the wormhole, and so I'm wondering I'm trying to prevent this from becoming Star Trek: The Next Generation 2. We're just farther out in space. You know what I mean?
No, I think this would have more similarities with Deep Space Nine in the fact that we have to deal with all of these. If we're going to be kind of not completely limited, like
do we
Voyager,
get a guide who knows the region and is going to
we have
guide us
Romulans
through?
Yeah, we do have Romulans. So not like Voyager or Deep Space Nine, who were kind of limited completely to where they were. Well, not Deep Space Nine, I guess, because they did trouble. But so they could come back to they could come back to wherever, or they could go to Kronos if they needed to, or whatever. But a good chunk of it, I would imagine, would be spent in Romulan space. And if, like, for whatever reason, we pick a chunk of this, a huge chunk, obviously a massive chunk of space that was unexplored before for whatever.
That's a good point.
Reason.
I hadn't considered the fact that this would mean we wouldn't ever really go to Kronos or Vulcan or any of these other planets.
No, totally could.
Because why would we go there? It's like Enterprise,
we're going that
way
way.
far away. Yeah, we're going the other way. Although we could tie it together where they occasionally have like resupply ships from the Federation, like they're basically setting up a convoy heading out in that direction, bases and outposts and whatnot, like little temporary things, but
Oh, yeah, I think there's, we are huge Next Generation fans, and a big part of the early part of Star Trek's DNA was exploration, well, and even to now. And we can still have that element of it, but it doesn't have to be entirely unknown space to explore. You know what I'm saying? There's lots of new stuff.
Like
that
new
we
to
can see.
new to the viewers, just like Next Generation.
Exactly.
We know them, but like we've never.
But the
seen
Romulans know it. I see what you're saying. So that's true. We can establish. Well, what if we established two other, not federations, but like regions that are beyond the Romulan border that are populated by X group and Y group, and we know we're going to be interacting with them. You know what I mean?
Well, like, and then some of this could be well, not that the Romulans were that bad, but subjugated races, for lack of a better word, that the Romulans had. And
near the border, we're going to have
right,
that.
but they're free now because there's no more empire, and so
that's true.
Yeah.
Ooh. What if so we have race X and Y, and then their common border was the Romulan Star Empire. But what if our path is kind of taking us along the border between X and Y? So what I'm basically saying is we've left Romulan, or we're leaving Romulan influence, but we're heading through not only a contested area that was part of the Romulan Empire, but now it's also contested between Group X and Y. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, at some point, Romulan space had to end. I mean, they were expansionists; they kept going, but at some point, they only had resources to do whatever, and then presumably they weren't very friendly to everybody that they came across.
No.
So when everything came tumbling down, then you could have all of these smaller races that we may be aware of, but the Federation had no contact with because they were literally on the other side of the Romulan Empire.
What if this is, we mirror this off of the fall of the Soviet Union and the shift to Russia?
Yeah. I mean, well, I was thinking actually literally the fall of Rome because it's Romulans, but I think either way. Like you could have the Visigoths or something, but I don't know. But because I feel like the first season, like this isn't going to be hard and fast, but like the first half of first season is we're learning about Romulan space as we go that way. But I think like if you want a big bad or whatever, that it doesn't have to be like the first season finale, but it can go basically like the Kazon in a good way. The Kazon of Voyager in the first and second season is what you were talking about with races XY. So like eventually we're going to leave them, by season 3. But like that can be sort of a thing that we always have to worry about.
These are the groups that bordered Romulan space, and we're passing through a lot of planets that were disputed between all 3 races.
Right, and they would be no threat. I mean, they could be a threat to the ship itself. They certainly would be no existential threat to the Federation, but they would be a threat to the mission in some way.
The further away we get, the more alone we are. And maybe that's, maybe that's why we have some maybe that's why we have some Romulan tricks up our sleeve as far as like the ship that we know about, but like we know we're going to be going into the unknown, so we got a good cloak. Maybe we can fire while cloaked. I don't know. Maybe like we have like one weapon we can use only when cloaked.
Maybe we have some drone ships that are really well controlled, like a little
some mines perhaps.
Mines, yes.
Inviso mines. So, all right, that's cool. We've got our setting there. What do you guys think about? And we'll paint in very broad strokes here, because we're not writing an actual pilot of this. Although maybe we could do that in the future. That might be fun. But what else would you like to see in the show? I have one thing that's coming out in my mind right now, and I'm sure something.
Now I have an episode that has to be called "Mine Enemy, Mine Friend."
Oh, that's good. I like that. I want to see an alien captain, like.
So Federation captain, but he's an alien, or she.
Yep. Whether he's a Vulcan, although we talked about that, maybe not a great idea. That's fine.
I mean, like, I think the Vulcan, in theory, can be interesting with the unification and the Romulan tie.
True,
but they're very hard to do in reality.
What if we had like a Spock-like character, a half human, half Vulcan, like
Vulcan,
Spock,
half Romulan?
We could do that.
What if we do a Cardassian?
Well, what I'm thinking of is the practicality of we're never going to get a captain in crazy, crazy makeup. That's just never going to happen. Because they're going to have the most screen time. You're just never going to see it. And they're never going to be paid.
A trill would be interesting because it's not a lot of makeup, but I feel like we've done the trill. As much as I think it's... I mean, they're great characters, and I hate to discount them, but like you always want to do something you haven't done. Or like a race you haven't seen that you know, but you haven't... Like, we could... Like, I was going to say Andorian, but no.
I know you're saying about makeup. I mean, the main reason I was saying Cardassian is because they had recently gone through their own upheaval, so they kind of like would have a lot of empathy.
Well,
I would have thought that the Cardassians would probably side with the Klingons as vultures to pick the bones of the Romulan
But I'm
Empire.
saying there are a few Cardassians in the Federation at this point. I'm just talking about as a race.
Well, we haven't established that. We have not established. I mean, there could be. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Well,
we
just
could
like
say
there's
that
a
there
couple of
are, and there would
Ferengi, but that doesn't mean like the Ferengi is part of the Federation.
I do like the idea of a half Vulcan, half Romulan. That would make a lot of sense because obviously the Romulans would be okay with that.
That's going to be the Tal
for the
Shiar
most part,
character.
depending on. And it could. Oh well, that would be too obvious. It's got to be someone you're not expecting.
Well, it's going to be someone with pointy ears. I'm going to be expecting that.
Well, it doesn't have to be because look what they did with Seska.
Wait, are you saying they're secretly a Romulan?
Why are you bringing up Seska? No, just kidding.
I don't mind Seska. I like the idea of Seska. That's I think even better. Like maybe like I would say like maybe they cut themselves and bleed green, but obviously the doctor would know their physiology. I don't know how
Unless it's the doctor.
Fix that. Oh, that's not a bad idea. There's got to be some sort of cover. Or they could pretend to be a robot, like Data.
Wait, Data was pretending? Oh my god, you blew my mind. I have to watch that series all over again.
All right, I think since we haven't come up with anything better, and I think it's a really good, strong idea, let's go with the Romulan Vulcan mix as the captain. Do we want to do captain or first officer?
Well, I mean, captain. Because, I mean, we, like the actual Discovery, we don't have to make it captain focused. We're just making it the captain. It doesn't mean it's always going to be,
Well,
every episode's not going to be
captain sit down with the head of the Romulan party and the head of the Remans and make decisions and,
right
and
because
stuff. Okay,
I mean there's still a political thing to this. Obviously,
I
the
do like
Romulans
that idea.
want someone they trust doing this mission.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe with maybe the unification movement is growing in popularity, so this was a powerful choice for the joint mission.
He has like a little Spock statue in his ready room.
It could be the Federation's way of.
They insist.
Maybe that's part of the tensions. Like it could be the Federation's way of like. What's the word I'm looking for? Not secretly, but like
Clandestine.
Kind of endorsing the idea of
unification.
Unification without actually without overtly coming out.
We're not
going to
tell you what to do, but the captain of this ship is a Vulcan / is
literally a unification.
Yes, his name is Uni. Maybe that's their slang. They call them unis, and they hate them because they want unification. Anyway,
so
anything else?
So I do like I was just gonna say I like the thought of being a little more lower deck focused. I think that's one of the things we all liked from wherever it seemed Discovery was going. So, I mean, yes, you still need a strong captain, and you still need other things like that. But having an alien captain, we like that.
Now, when you because this is again, we don't have to design it though we can. What size are you picturing this Discovery? I assume that's what we're calling it. Like, is this like slightly bigger than Voyager, or are we talking
a little
like Enterprise
bigger than Voyager?
No.
I'm thinking.
Because is this like what is this? Is it like an explorer ship? I'm just making up the term. Or is this like a science
ship?
Yeah,
That's what I was just thinking of. Could it be a colony ship? But no, because we're going to have access
wave.
to. Right. Yeah. This is more
the
of
tip of the
exploratory
spear.
thing.
Maybe that's
is this like a super science ship?
That's a good one. That should be the name of the
tip
pilot.
Of the spear. I can go with that. I can go with that.
Because it's leading the thrust into uncharted space as they look for a new home for the Romulans.
What if and this is just a crazy idea, I'm just throwing it out there. No, never mind, I'm not going to, because Battlestar.
Because again, it's a Romulan design, so it may be unlike anything we've thought of before. It could be, again, since we're just making this up, it could be a vertical ship, for all we want.
Or I would say then I'd say it's Federation in the fact that it has a dish, but then maybe it has like a upper and lower plane, more like a warbird would. I'm not saying literally take a warbird and like imagine it with a saucer on the front, but it's a little more melded than that.
Right, because
it doesn't matter because whatever you just said is better than
right. Well, like I mean, think about Nemesis, like the warbird we know in Next Generation is either gone or whatever, because the Nemesis ones are just more like the wing.
Right. It's like the top half of a warbird, yeah.
Which we hate, so. We don't hate them. They're just not.
Yeah, I mean, cool. It's like you still have the saucer-ish components of a Federation ship, but then you also have the wing-ish components of a Romulan ship, and then some amalgamation of the two. Like that. Again, we don't have to over-design it, but it's obviously when you look at it, it should look like a fusion between the two cultures,
right?
And green.
And so we're just thinking, so like Enterprise C maybe size.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, bigger than a. Because you have the long.
What's the complement?
It's very green.
500.
I'd say 6. Maybe. I mean, it's the fact that you're also not expecting to go back to Earth for a while. Like they want to finish this mission, like so they need to kind of stock up a little.
So Enterprise D is 1,000.
Right.
The original Enterprise was it 150 or 400?
4.
No, you're probably right.
Oh,
no,
you mean
you're probably right. No, I'm talking about.
Star Trek Enterprise is 400.
Really? That money?
No.
No.
TOS.
Not Star Trek Enterprise. I'm sorry.
TOS. All right,
TOS
let's cut
was
the. So it'll be like 600. We'll say.
Let's split the difference. 750.
7, and I'm not going a person higher. So there's 742. No, I don't know. But anyway. Again, so
there's 701, and you just imagine another 1 in front of that number, and then everyone geeks out.
Alien captain,
a super medium size ship. So that's why, because when you're going lower deck, that's why I'm trying to get a good number.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So whether it's a big ship, small ship, do they know everyone? Do they not know everyone?
Well, then you could have the fact that the lower decks actually get along better between the Federation and Romulan crew. I would also like to see a split crew. Like, not everyone is wearing Federation uniforms. It's not like it's like this is going to be one crew, Romulans, a Federation crew, and you're all going to wear our uniforms.
Well, okay. I was going to say then, are we going to go with a Deep Space Nine Voyager model of having? But we already have a uni. We already have Captain Uni. So like you don't need like a Romulan first officer necessarily.
No, but I'm saying. Well, but what I'm saying is that they're.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to have a split crew, then who's in charge of
literally
the
a
other
mix
crew?
of crew. Well, no, I'm saying they're all combined, but they are also governed slightly independently. Like the Romulans are like, well, we don't want to lose any individuality we have just for this mission.
Yeah, the Romulans aren't going to be in Starfleet. I agree with that because that wouldn't make any sense.
It would be like just like Deep Space
it's more
Nine
like Deep Space Nine where you have all the Bajorans. But they all report and listen to Cisco, like he is their commander.
Well, yeah, but I feel like we should have like a main
subsections.
Cisco.
We do have a main, like whether it's like a political officer or something like that.
Well, let's make the Romulan the XO. Yeah, let's make them like the XO.
I just feel like if you have a Vulcan Romulan
McDuff.
captain and then a Romulan XO, it's a lot of pointy ears in the room.
But then your first officer is human. I'm saying separate the two. Your first officer is human, and your XO is
I see what you're saying.
Is Romulan.
Oh, I got you.
So it's kind of like 1 and then 2 and then yeah.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait, who's the captain?
It's still Captain Uni.
Is Uni.
Okay.
And then you have a first officer that's Federation, that's a human.
Right, but the captain has to belong to one of the other factions.
Sorry, the captain is Federation. This is
okay, that's what I said.
Yeah, the captain and the first officer are Federation, but the XO is Romulan.
Now,
sure.
What if I'm just throwing this idea out? Why does it have to be a military? Why can't it be a Romulan civilian?
For the XO? It could be. I'm just saying kind of more of like an ambassador-ish kind of role.
Yeah, well, I said political officer, like I don't know if y'all know what that is in real life, but like Hunt for Red October, if you're not super familiar with what the Soviets had. But like it doesn't have to be that, because obviously the Federation doesn't do that. But sort of like, it's sort of a consul, whatever. No, actually, that's a good Romulan word, consul, but anyway.
There you go. They would have Kira's role, essentially.
Basically.
Right. Except she
representing
was military. But anyway, it can be military. I'm just that idea.
Provisional government, that's fine. Phillip. I mean, is that really
there would be a provisional government for Romulan, because they don't have a government anymore. Well,
true.
Well, or do they?
Ooh, shadow government.
Ooh.
Well, I was thinking maybe the whoever is in charge of
the Praetor.
Whoever, not the Praetor, but whoever is the XO or whatever on this ship is like a high-ranking senator.
Ooh, that's true. Maybe it's fully. There is no president. It's just the Senate left. They have a new Senate, and there is no singular figurehead for the Romulan star.
Like remnant. It could be, and again, I know it's bad to always operate by analogy because we don't want to see what we've seen before. But imagine the analogy would be T'Pol at the beginning of Enterprise, who's like ambassadorial staff or something. But anyway, so we meet like the senator or Romulan senator or whatever.
He's a senator.
Well, we meet him or her, whatever, it doesn't matter. Or invited transgendered species. But like basically we find out like a third of the way through or halfway through that he's either renounced his senatorhood or whatever just so he can sign on with this mission. Because obviously you're not going to be a senator during the mission, so
maybe he was on track to being like the lead senator or like basically the leader of the House. But then he changed tracks. He's like, no, it's hard. Basically, I've seen it hard enough for our Senate to actually do anything. I'm going to put myself on this ship to make the best future for my people.
And there's also like maybe it doesn't have to be like the first pilot or whatever, but like what's the real reason he's there? This is a little sketchy.
Right. Do they get to still?
I think they should call him
by
senator
one of those actors
the entire time.
I was just going to say, do they get to call him senator? Because that would be awesome.
It's like Governor Tarkin. Like you always call him that, even though he's. Got
I could always be
titles.
like every time he's like, I did renounce that. He says something every time. They're like, senator.
Yeah, be senator. Yeah, okay, senator.
Yeah, but even if he renounced, even if he renounced his senatorship or whatever, he would still report to them. And that would remove him from the chain of command that's on the ship, which would also kind of provide another sort of like a friction there.
Right. I mean, there is an easy balance between this is a Federation ship technically, but I mean, the line is intermixed a lot on decisions, on what's going on. But yeah, I definitely, So maybe he's not even technically the XO. He's just like the first senator or
liaison,
some sort of position we make up.
Right, because I could see like when Captain Uni's getting his briefing from Admiral or Ambassador, whoever, it would be like, yeah, he's not
Admiral Janeway, obviously.
Yeah, well, he's like, he's not in your chain of command, but guess what? You better listen to what he says.
Right. Yeah, because he represents the Romulan people, which is why we're doing this whole mission.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we can create drama on a week-to-week basis, with, again, I don't want to play there's the Federation way and there's the Romulan way, like, every single week, but there's obviously going to be, we're exploring, but we're also searching for taking something that might belong to someone else. I mean, like you said, like all these planets that are probably good are probably already occupied. So it's like, what do we do?
Yeah, and the conflict comes from not so much from, it's. I don't know. I do like the idea of the senator and stuff like that, though. What else? Is there anything else you guys want?
Well,
to
I do. I'm like, because I think we've added a heavy political layer, which I like. I like everything we've done, but I do think we need to throw in some like science and some like explore stuff.
More specialized, like is a specialization. So main characters should be like there should be a first contact specialist that we see. That like it's not always the captain. It's
so larger Well, here's one of the good things about doing a lower decks type show. You can have a larger cast and just have people recurring every now and again.
That's true.
3 episodes a season or whatever. Like, we only see the first contact specialists for the most part when we have a first.
So
contact.
It could be someone really like it could be like a real good actor. like someone we'd only pay like 3 times
for
a season.
5 episodes.
Yeah.
like maybe Hoopa Goldberg.
Have and I'd like to see more department heads. Like, I mean, I know that
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like they technically were, but we didn't ever see them being
like
the
where's
department
the
heads,
botanist
really?
and the
Well, I knew we like Worf and Riker were obviously the heads of certain departments, but we never saw
reported
them.
to them.
Yeah, we did see in some episodes. I'm not saying it never happened, but I was like, I want to see a couple episodes where the Worf, like the head of security, is meeting and trying to overcome the challenges that this situation arises.
Have you tried eating Romulan food? The crew's about to mutiny, sir.
Now, what if you were saying science-y? What if we had less like Earth sciences and exploring and more
Romulan sciences?
Romulan sciences, but I was thinking more engineering. Like we have one of our number 2 big characters be. I mean, you got to make this ship run, and it at its core is not Federation technology.
Literally,
its
core is.
So,
well, we've kind of done. We have kind of done that with O'Brien on Deep Space Nine. But
or we could make them chief engineer Romulan. It would kind of have to be.
It's true.
Well, I feel like maybe, and again, this is pushing it too much. I know, but I'm going to go for it. There should be one department head, and engineering is the one that comes to mind, where there should be 2 of them, like co-engineers.
Like a Federation and a Romulan.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And they, they do get along. They don't get along. Oh, well, doctors maybe that would also make sense. Either one, because I'm just seeing like. They don't have to be like, oh God, I'm not working with them, because that'd be too easy. But there has, maybe they're like, oh, we work together at a conference, or dude, this is so cool that we're doing this together. But then maybe later on, it's always opportunity for future friction.
Can the doctor call in an emergency medical Mark III every once in a while? Because that would be awesome.
Andy Dick, he's pretty expensive. So
no Mark III, not Mark II.
So the Mark III looks exactly like. What's the actor's name? I can't even remember now. Oh, Bob Picardo does now, so that we can just totally use him, because that would be awesome.
But
so that actually, maybe this will be the last point.
I think we need a part 2 eventually, Daniel.
This does something where there's a lot of stuff going around here. One of the big advantages of doing this timeline and this time is we get to see
cameos.
Some of these characters and cameos. Now. Especially for someone like me, super tempting just to be like, throw them in every episode. I want to see all of them all the time, But we don't. Certainly not in the pilot unless you're going to do something very brief.
So how again? Remind me how long after Nemesis?
So Nemesis was
12, 14.
I'd say let's go with
It doesn't have to be super far, but you tell me.
It doesn't.
Well, like, it's when Romulus was destroyed.
Okay, well, this was saying...
However long the distance is between the last time we saw the actors and now in Starfleet,
that's
is
30 years.
how-
Well, I was just saying,
So-
yes, that's a long time, man. Okay.
Again, remember, they age
I
slowly
know.
in space.
No,
Well, like,
but I mean...
they wouldn't be in
like,
the same
Next Gen
positions.
just turned 30.
Oh no.
Right.
We would have to come up with cool, and that's the thing. Well, the same thing that we got with the TOS cameos in Next Gen and beyond. It would be the exact same sort of.
So
scenario.
Geordi's
put
stuck
Harry
in a
Kim.
transporter.
Harry Kim's a regular cast member.
Oh no. A lot of these people would certainly still be involved.
Captain
in Starfleet.
Kim.
A lot of the maybe we can kill off some of these people. Maybe we can kill off some of these people on the show.
Just like every other
and maybe
episode, we just kill a 24th century character. It's what we do.
And maybe Cisco is still in the white
wormhole.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like 20, 30 years after Next Gen.
Well, in other words, I was thinking, I was joking earlier, but like, the Titan was on course for Romulus. So I don't know if Captain Riker and the Titan, I guess he'd have to be Admiral Riker by now.
I would think we would run into the Titan at some point. Unless, 30 years is a
that's
long
what I'm
time. We
saying.
would have to
Yeah.
maybe the Titan B or something like
well,
that.
no, I was saying 30 years post Next Gen. I wasn't saying 30 years post Nemesis.
Oh, okay. That makes a little bit of a difference. But we could play with the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
to make it
I
fit.
mean-
So that's not a problem.
Because, like, in other words, okay, if we're going to end soon, Daniel, who's going to send us off? Who's going to be there at the first episode of Discovery?
Passover.
I mean, because technically, Enterprise was the last episode, so...
yeah.
I
Or you
would
know what I
say it would.
Yeah.
I would say it would be Geordi
Okay.
because Geordi was helped Spock create the jellyfish.
Yeah. So he would help make the Discovery.
He was already working with the Romulans,
And he
at
has
the
a
time.
good rapport with Romulans from past experience.
Yeah. I would say Geordi would make the
So,
most
Captain
sense.
LaForge.
I would actually. I'm going to go against Captain LaForge, and I'm going to say he is like the
Captain LeBrom's.
No,
Well, you did say it works
like,
differently.
No, I'm saying like he's like the administrator of the Utopia Phoenicia or something. Like he's not. I don't want him to be a captain of a ship. I want him to be over.
He could be head
He's
of
a great he's a great
Utopia
novelist.
Phoenicia. That's where they build the ships.
Engineering.
No.
Corps.
The Starfleet Corps of Engineers.
Oh, yeah.
He could be
He's
the
like-
whatever.
Well,
it is.
yeah, and then he'd probably be like an admiral, but he's basically
Well,
like the head of the Corps of Engineer.
Well, and again, I haven't read the book series, but like in the United States, the Army Corps of Engineers isn't really the Army. I don't really know how it works, but it's sort of like it's not military necessarily because there's engineers in the Army. They're not in the Corps of Engineers. So it could be maybe some demi-civilian post that he's sort of retired to while writing all his great novels.
Yes,
So Geordi,
so
Geordi,
Geordi,
whether he's
yeah.
captain or
Yeah.
whatever,
I like that.
is gonna send us off. And it makes
Now,
a lot of sense. And he would have his
So
robot
just
eyes.
Geordi? Because, I mean, we have 3 24th century series. You're just going to go with Geordi?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
You don't want it to
Overshadow.
You don't want it to overshadow.
Maybe he's working with some other engineer.
And remember,
like
the first time we saw him, he was like,
Tor.
he was lieutenant junior grade.
Right.
Versus like, we can't really have it be like Picard. Like he's gonna
No.
be well past, active duty time.
He'll probably be, in the winery, in
his vineyard.
picking berries and stuff. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe if you want to throw like B'Elanna or somebody in there. I don't know. I just feel like that'd be too much.
But we do have at least Captain Geordi.
That would be
Yeah.
cool if B'Elanna was and Geordi. Like that would be.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
your
what I'm saying.
Voyager fans
Maybe-
would freak.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be one. It could be 2.
Yeah, just that's it. I mean, it doesn't have to be much. One scene, whatever.
But yeah, having them be engineering people, because especially since this ship is, this amalgamation between these two technologies, like, that hasn't been done.
I would like to see Leah Brahms there as
Okay.
well.
Fine, she's there. Are you happy? Now is this now? Wait a minute. Because he's far away from home, does he call up his holographic wife, or is this the real?
Lord.
The EWH.
Emergency wife hologram. Sheesh.
All
The
right,
emergency
I think
marital
it's good
hologram.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's a good stopping point. This actually went on much longer and much more in depth than I was expecting it to. Just throwing, spitballs at the wall here, and I had a good time. maybe we will revisit our alternate Discovery. Here's the thing. I think we could probably finish season 1 before they release.
We love you, Star Trek writers.
So,
and definitely our Star Trek show is shot right here in Hollywood, California, USA.
Oh.
Just gonna put that.
U.S.S. All right, Philip, if people wanted to find out if you were one of the final remaining Tal Shiar, how would they get a hold
Well,
of
if you want to find out how to make Romulus great again, they can find me on Twitter at NC Public Servant.
I'm picturing Romulan with a red hat now.
It's a green hat. It would be a green
Oh,
hat.
a green hat. Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. All right, Darren, and if people wanted to talk to you about what the Federation ships would look like in that color, that shiny green color, how would they get a hold
Look,
of
this year saucers are out. Instead, we got trapezoids for days. But yeah, they can find me on Twitter under username Dr. Sci-Fi, DRSCIFI, or drsci-fi.com, where they can see my Stormtroop blog, build projects, and everything else I'm working on.
Speaking of working on other things, Philip, what are we going to talk about next week?
Well, we've talked about the deviousness of Romulans, and next week we're going to have the first ever battle royale between Daniel and Darren as I host some trivia between them.
Oh, that'll
Bringing
be
back
fun.
the games.
Nice. I'm Daniel Prue.
I'm Philip Gilfus.
I'm Darren Moser.
Stranded here on SETI Alpha 3.
Come!